That's enough. That's all that was needed. If you can hear this, then you're awake, and your mind is doing that thing it does, turning things over, running the numbers, reaching forward into tomorrow, backward into yesterday, somewhere other than here. That's all right. You don't have to stop it. You don't have to fight it. You just have to let this voice be one more thing in the room, like the hum of the night outside or the weight of a blanket. Something to rest against, wherever you are right now. Lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, curled on your side. You don't have to move. You don't have to fix anything tonight. There is a particular kind of wakefulness that arrives not with noise, but with arithmetic. You are lying in the dark, and the room is quiet, and the house is still, and everything around you is as peaceful as sleep should be. But something is moving inside you, something that has no sound and no shape, only numbers. Numbers that don't add up the way you need them to. Numbers that keep rearranging themselves in the dark, forming equations you can't solve, presenting totals you don't want to see. You know this feeling. You have been here before. It is the feeling of lying in bed while your mind runs through the account. Slowly, methodically, the way a hand moves through water. The rent or the mortgage. The card that carries more than it should. The month that cost more than it was supposed to. The savings that are smaller than you planned, or the plan that went in a direction you didn't expect, or the number that used to feel safe and no longer does. You are not panicking. That is the strange thing about this kind of night. It is not dramatic. It is quiet and relentless, the way a slow leak is relentless. Not a flood, just the steady loss of something, the faint drip that you cannot stop hearing even when you cover your ears. You wonder if you made the wrong choice somewhere. You wonder if a different decision, years ago or months ago or last week, would have put you somewhere else tonight. You wonder if everyone else has figured something out that you are still looking for. You wonder if the gap between where you are and where you thought you would be is a gap that closes or one that stays. And you wonder, in the particular way that midnight allows, whether you are the only one lying awake right now, turning these numbers over and over in the dark like stones you cannot put down. There is something almost ritualistic about the way the mind returns to these particular worries at night. It is not random. The brain, in the hours between full wakefulness and sleep, loses some of its capacity for distraction. In daylight, the motion of things, the conversations and tasks and small decisions, and the ambient noise of a life being lived creates a kind of static that drowns out the deeper signal. But in the dark, in the stillness, the signal comes through clearly. What you care about most, what you fear losing, what you cannot quite resolve. These things do not have to compete with anything else for your attention, and so they have all of it. This is why the night is so honest and why it is so difficult. It is not torturing you. It is simply showing you what you carry. The weight you manage to set down in daylight hours is still there at midnight because you never truly set it down. You only found something loud enough to carry it without noticing the strain. Tonight, in this quiet, there is nothing loud enough. There is only the weight and you and the question of what to do with each other until morning. You are not the only one. This room you are in, dark, quiet, holding you, is one of millions. In apartments and houses, in cities and towns, in places where the currency is different and the numbers have different shapes, but the weight is the same. There are people lying awake tonight doing exactly what you are doing. They are not failing. They are not broken. They are human beings carrying a concern that has followed our species since the first time one person looked at what they had and wondered if it would be enough. The anxiety about enough is ancient. It did not begin with you. It will not end with you. And it is not, as you have perhaps been taught to feel, evidence of something wrong with you. It is evidence of something alive in you, something that cares about your survival, your family, your future. The worry is not your enemy. It is a guard that does not know how to rest. And tonight, in this hour, you are going to teach it how. Not by solving the numbers. The numbers are not solvable tonight. This is not a session of planning or calculation. This is not the time for spreadsheets or strategies or lists of things to do differently. That time exists, and you will find it, and you will use it. But that time is not this time. This time, this dark, quiet, ordinary hour, belongs only to your body and your breathing and the slow work of letting the weight settle somewhere outside of you, at least until morning. So let your hands rest on the blanket. Let your shoulders come down from wherever they have been holding themselves. Let the back of your head find the pillow again. You do not have to solve anything tonight. You only have to be here. And there are voices from far back in human time. Men who thought carefully about money and enough and the difference between the two, who have something to say to you in this hour. Listen. The number is not the thing you are afraid of. This is important to understand, and it is one of the things that the dark is actually good for, if you will let it be. The dark has a way of showing you what is underneath the surface of a fear. In daylight, in the noise and motion of doing and managing and getting through, the surface is enough to deal with. But in the night, with nothing to do and nowhere to go, the fear deepens to its root. And the root is not the number. The number is the shape the fear has taken tonight. Tomorrow it might take a different shape. Last month it took a different shape. The number changes. It is larger some seasons and smaller in others. It is urgent sometimes and merely present at others. But the feeling underneath the number, the specific heaviness that arrives in your chest at 1 in the morning or 2 or 3, the feeling that asks whether you are safe, whether you are okay, whether you will be okay. That feeling is older than any number. It is the feeling of being uncertain about the future. And that feeling is not a problem to solve. It is a condition of being alive. The philosophers who lived 2,000 years before you understood this. They did not live in a world without financial anxiety. In Rome in the 1st century, when a man named Lucius Annaeus Seneca was writing letters by lamplight to his friend Lucilius, money was a matter of survival and status and constant anxiety in ways that would be familiar to you. People went bankrupt. Fortunes changed overnight. Men who were wealthy on Tuesday were ruined by Friday. The empire was full of people who had more than enough and still lay awake terrified of losing it, and people who had very little and lay awake terrified of having less. Seneca looked at all of this, the scrambling and the hoarding and the spending and the fearing, and he wrote something so clear and so simple that it has survived 2 millennia to reach you tonight. He wrote, "It is not the man who has too little who is poor. It is the man who craves more. Read that again, slowly, in the quiet of where you are. It is not the man who has too little who is poor. It is the man who craves more. This is not a dismissal of real difficulty. Seneca was not naive about poverty. He was not telling you that money doesn't matter or that your concerns are imaginary. He was pointing at something precise, that the suffering we experience around money is almost never a simple relationship between the amount and the anxiety. If it were, then the richest people would never lie awake, and you know that they do. If it were, then having more would solve it, and you have perhaps noticed that it does not. Not permanently, not in the way the mind promises it will. The craving is the suffering, not the number. Think about what the number represents to you, not abstractly, but specifically. For some people, money is safety. It is the memory of a time when there was not enough, or the fear of returning to a time when there was not enough. And the number on the statement is a proxy for the distance between now and that memory. For some people, money is worth. It is the way a culture that measures everything in transactions has taught them to measure themselves. For some people, money is love. The capacity to take care of people, to protect them, to provide the conditions in which the people they love can flourish. These are not simple things. They are not things that can be dismissed with a philosophy. But recognizing the shape of what you're actually afraid of changes the nature of the conversation. If the fear is about safety, then the question is not really about money. It is about the feeling of being unsafe, and the ways in which that feeling can be addressed that do not require the immediate resolution of the financial concern. If the fear is about worth, then the question is whether worth was ever the right thing to be looking for in a number. If the fear is about love, about being able to give, to protect, to provide, then the question is what love actually requires and whether it has ever been as dependent on financial conditions as the anxious mind insists at midnight. These are the questions that money is really asking you, and they are not solvable tonight. But naming them changes them. The formless weight acquires a shape, and shapes can be worked with. Shapes have edges. They can be set down. And the craving for certainty, for safety, for the feeling that the future is secured, for the peace of knowing that enough is enough. The craving is something that lives in the mind, not in the bank account, which means that the place the suffering begins and ends is not in your ledger. It is in here, in the thoughts turning in the dark. In the story the mind tells about what the numbers mean. Tonight, you are not going to fix the numbers. You are going to look at the story. You are going to look at what the number means to you, what it stands for, what you believe it says about your worth or your safety or your future. And you are going to look at that meaning with the clear, patient eyes of someone who knows that meanings can be changed even when numbers cannot. Not yet. Not this moment. For now, just the beginning of understanding. The number is not the thing. Let your jaw soften. Let your tongue drop away from the roof of your mouth. Let the breath come in and out, slow and unhurried, as if your body already knows what the mind is still learning. You are safe right now. In this moment, this actual, present moment. You are in a bed, in a room, breathing. Nothing is collapsing. Nothing is ending. The thing you are afraid of is a future event, and the future does not exist yet. You have given it the realness of the present, and it has taken up residence in your chest as though it is already here. But it is not here. Not tonight. What is here is the pillow and the dark and the breath and the weight of your body held up by something solid. Let the solid thing hold you. Seneca was a very wealthy man who spent a great deal of his life thinking about why wealth was not what he thought it was. This is not a contradiction. Or rather, it is a contradiction of the kind that makes a man worth listening to. Someone who has had the thing, who has seen it clearly, who has learned from the gap between what he expected it to give him and what it actually gave. He was born into money, lost most of it, rebuilt it, became one of the richest men in Rome, lived in palaces, advised an emperor, and spent every night he could writing letters and essays about the interior life. About the only life that actually mattered, the life that couldn't be taken away by a fire or a debt or a change in the emperor's mood. He wrote a letter. Letter 1. And it is perhaps the most important letter he wrote, though it says almost nothing about money. It says everything about time. He wrote most of his surviving work in the last few years of his life under a cloud of imperial suspicion, knowing that death, which eventually came by emperor's order, was always a possibility. He was old, sick, tired, and he wrote with the particular clarity of someone who had run out of reasons to be dishonest. The letters to Lucilius are not the work of a man performing philosophy. They are the work of a man who needs it, who is practicing it, because the alternative is the kind of anxiety that prevents sleep and consumes the hours. He knew the anxiety. He wrote about it. He called it animus estuat, the mind boils. The boiling mind that cannot settle, that turns and turns on whatever it has seized, that cannot be distracted from its own heat. He had it. He was not a naturally calm man. He was a man who worked very hard over a very long time to find something that could outlast the boiling. He wrote, "Ita fac mi Lucili, vindicata tibi." Do this, my Lucilius. Claim yourself for yourself. He had been watching people give away their hours, not to thieves, not to enemies, but to the small, endless borrowings of everyday life. Time lent to this person, given away to that obligation, absorbed by worry about a future that had not come and might never come, spent on regret about a past that was gone beyond altering. He looked at this and he said, "You are hemorrhaging the only thing you actually own, and you are barely noticing." Because time, Seneca believed, was the only true currency. Not denarii, not property, not social position. Time. The hours of an actual living human day, the minutes of a quiet evening, the seconds of a single breath. These were the only things that were genuinely yours, and only for as long as you had them. He wrote, "Omnia, Lucili, aliena sunt, tempus tantum nostrum est." Everything is alien to us, Lucilius. Time alone is ours. And you lie awake tonight, spending your time, spending this specific and unrepeatable hour on a number, on a calculation, on a fear about a future that may or may not arrive in the form you are imagining it. Seneca is not judging you for this. He did it too. He was human. The difference is that he noticed, eventually, what was being lost in the transaction. Not money, hours. The actual hours of a life. He wrote, "Reckon up the time you have spent in calculation. Reckon up the time you have spent on profit and loss. And ask yourself, what has all of this cost you, measured in days?" He was not suggesting that financial responsibility is unimportant. He kept his own books. He managed his estates. He was not careless. He was suggesting that there is a moment, and this is that moment, when the calculation has reached the limit of its usefulness for the evening, and what it costs to continue is precisely the rest that the body and mind need. The account is still there in the morning. It does not change because you slept. It does not worsen because you rested. The numbers on the paper or the screen do not rearrange themselves while you sleep, becoming more dangerous. They wait. They are patient. They will be exactly where you left them. And here is what changes when you sleep. You. The neuroscience of this is as clear as philosophy has always intuited it to be. The sleeping brain processes the emotional charge of difficult memories. It consolidates what it has learned. It draws connections between problems that the waking, linear, anxious mind cannot see. The morning version of you, rested, slightly outside the closed loop of the nighttime anxiety, will approach the same numbers with more creativity, more flexibility, more access to your actual capabilities. Seneca was not speaking metaphorically when he wrote about the restoration of sleep. He believed it as philosophy. We know it now as physiology. The result is the same. The mind that rests is the mind that responds well, and responding well to what life presents. This was, to a Stoic, the entire project. So the calculation changes. The return on investment of this hour, spent in rest, in breath, in the slow unwinding of a body that has been braced all day, is higher than any other use you could make of it. Not because the worry doesn't matter, because the worry needs you at your best to be addressed properly. And your best is what sleep produces. But the hour you are in right now, this specific hour, dark and quiet, the kind of stillness that comes rarely even in a life full of quiet nights, this hour is not patient. It does not wait. It is already, even as you hear these words, becoming the next moment, moving the way water moves, forward and only forward, never pausing. Seneca wrote near the end of his life, "Dum defertur vita transcurrit." While we delay, life passes. He was not speaking of procrastination. He was speaking of the delay of being present, the constant postponement of the actual moment, the present breath, the present warmth, the present dark, in favor of a past that is gone or a future that is imagined. Tonight, you are postponing this moment by living in a future that isn't here yet. And Seneca, whose letters have survived 2,000 years to reach you in this bed, in this dark, would lean forward and say, "Come back. Come back to the hour you're in. This hour is yours. It is the only property you unquestionably own. Spend it here. Let the breath come. Feel the weight of the body. Feel the warmth beneath the blanket. This is the ledger that matters now. One breath, then another, then another. Add them up as slowly as you like. You have been carrying this in your body. You may not have noticed. When we worry about money, we tend to believe the worry lives in the mind, in the calculations, the projections, the plans that form and dissolve and reform. We believe that if we could just think our way to a solution, the worry would leave. And so we keep thinking. We keep turning the numbers over. We keep running the scenarios. But the body has been listening to all of this, and it has drawn its own conclusions. The muscles of the shoulders are slightly braced, as though prepared for impact. The muscles of the jaw have been subtly clenching, the way they clench when we are holding back a response. The belly is tighter than it needs to be, contracted around a center of concern the way a hand closes around something it does not want to lose. The breath is shallow, not stopped. You are breathing, but not full. The kind of breathing that happens when the body believes there is not enough safety to breathe all the way in. This is what financial anxiety does to the body, not just to the mind. The Stoics were unusual among ancient philosophers in taking the body seriously. They were not ascetics who treated the body as an obstacle or a distraction. They understood that the body and the mind are not separate systems running in parallel. They are a single system that influences itself in both directions. A troubled mind tightens the body. A tightened body troubles the mind further. The loop runs in both directions, and the only way to interrupt it is to enter it at one end or the other. Tonight, you enter it through the body. Not because the mind's concerns are invalid, but because the mind has reached its limit for this evening. The mind has done what it can do in the dark. The body, by contrast, has not yet been given the chance to do what it can do, which is to signal, through its own softening, that the immediate threat is low, that the system can afford to slow down, that rest is safe. And here is the thing about the body. It does not know the difference between a lion and a bank statement. It does not distinguish between a physical threat, the kind the nervous system was built for, the sudden, real, present danger, and a symbolic threat, a number on a page, a projection about next month, a scenario about what might happen if. The body treats all of these with the same chemistry, the same cascade of small urgencies, the same readying. The readying in the body of someone who cannot sleep at 2 in the morning because of money is not appropriate to the danger. There is no lion. There is no sudden event to run from or fight. There is only a thought, a real thought, a valid concern, a legitimate worry, but a thought nonetheless. A thought that has triggered a physical state designed for a different kind of problem. So the body needs to be shown that this is not that kind of moment, not by argument, not by reassurance. The body does not respond to argument the way the mind does. It responds to sensation, to breath, to the actual physical reality of the present. So let's come into the body now. Begin with the feet. Whatever position they're in, let them relax. Feel the weight of them. Feel the specific temperature of the bed where your feet rest. Whether it's warm or cool, whether the sheets are smooth or textured. Let the small muscles of the feet go. The toes, the arches, the heels. The feet have carried you through the whole long day, and they are allowed to rest now. They have nothing to carry in this bed. Let that rest move up through the ankles, through the calves. Let the muscles there lengthen, soften, stop holding. The thighs. There is often a tension held in the upper legs that we do not notice until we look for it. A subtle bracing. A readiness. Let it go. Let the weight of the legs sink into the mattress, through the mattress, into the solid ground beneath the house, as though the earth itself were receiving them. The hips, the low back. There is often a great deal of tension stored in the low back, the body's load-bearing center, the place where we hold effort and weight and the accumulated physical echo of days spent sitting at desks or standing at counters or moving through a world that requires constant physical adjustment. Let it soften. You are horizontal now. The low back does not need to carry anything horizontal. Let the mattress do the work. Let the floor do the work. Let the earth do the work. The belly. Feel the belly and notice what it is doing. Is it tight? Is it held? There is a common pattern, almost universal among people who carry financial worry, where the belly is subtly clenched, as though protecting something vital at the body's center, as though the concern lies there and the muscles have closed around it like a fist. Let the belly soften. This is not easy. It requires a kind of courage that nobody talks about. The courage to loosen your grip on the fear, to stop holding it so tightly, to let it exist without needing to be clutched. The belly can soften and the concern can still be real. The two are not contradictions. You can let your body rest while still taking the worry seriously. The seriousness does not live in the tension. Let the belly soften with the next exhale. And the chest, the breath. Feel where the breath is arriving right now. Is it in the upper chest, shallow and quick? Can you, without forcing, let it drop a little lower? Let the ribs expand gently to the sides with the inhale. Let the exhale be long and unhurried. Let the breath be the size it wants to be, not the size anxiety has narrowed it to. The shoulders, let them fall. Let them drop away from the ears, away from the line of the jaw. They do not need to be up here. There is nothing to brace against in this moment. The jaw, the face, the eyes behind the closed lids, the small muscles of the forehead which have been subtly furrowed, processing. Let all of it go, the way a hand opens when it finally decides to put something down. You have been carrying the account in your body. For this hour, you are allowed to set it down. There was a man who had nothing, and who taught something that would outlast the richest empires. His name was Epictetus, and he was born a slave. He did not choose his circumstance. He did not arrive in this world with assets or prospects or security. He was property. He was owned in the legal sense, in the most complete sense. And yet he became one of the most important thinkers in the history of human freedom. Not because his external conditions changed, but because of the single distinction he drew between two categories of things. The things that are in our power, he said, and the things that are not. In our power, our opinions, our impulses, our desires, our aversions, our responses, our character, the interior movements of a human being. These are ours, truly and completely ours, regardless of what happens outside. No circumstance can enter the mind and rearrange it without our permission. No event can strip us of who we choose to be. Not in our power. The body, money, reputation, social position, the behavior of other people, the condition of the market, the decisions made by employers or landlords or governments or any of the 1,000 forces that shape the external world. These, Epictetus said, are not truly ours. They are on loan. They arrive and depart according to forces larger than ourselves, and to make our peace contingent on them is to hand our peace to something we cannot control. Epictetus used the word prokaimenon. What lies before you, what is presented to you. The external things that appear in your life are not yours in the deep sense. They are presented. They are given and taken, increased and diminished by forces that existed before you and will exist after you. The market was here before your particular account entered it. The economy was running before you were born into it. The price of housing, the interest rate, the hiring conditions of your industry. All of these were set in motion by forces that predate your choices and will continue after them. This is not cause for despair. This is cause for precision. You are not responsible for all of it. You are responsible for your response to it. The choices you make within the conditions you find, the character you bring to the circumstances you did not choose. This is a smaller domain than the anxious mind believes it is responsible for. And a smaller domain can be actually genuinely managed. The enormous domain, the whole of external reality, cannot. It only produces the feeling of managing endlessly without resolution. Epictetus narrowed the domain of responsibility to something workable. And tonight, the domain is narrower still. This breath, this body, this choice to rest rather than to continue the unwinnable negotiation with uncertainty. This is not fatalism. This is not passivity. Epictetus was not suggesting that you stop caring about money, that you stop working, that you accept injustice with a shrug. He himself fought vigorously within the constraints of his life for freedom, for dignity, for the right to think and speak and teach. He is saying something more precise, that the suffering is not in the event. The suffering is in the belief that the event determines your worth, your safety, your goodness. He wrote, "Men are disturbed not by the things which happen, but by the opinions about the things." Read this slowly. Men are disturbed not by the things which happen, but by the opinions about the things. The account balance is a thing that has happened. That is its entire nature. A number, a fact, a piece of information. It cannot disturb you. It has no power to enter you and create suffering on its own. What disturbs is the opinion, the meaning applied, the story told. This number means I am failing. This number means I am not safe. This number means I am not the person I was supposed to be, that I have made irreversible mistakes, that the future is darker than I can bear. These are opinions. They may feel like facts in the dark of 2 in the morning, the way all thoughts feel like facts when there is nothing to compare them to. But they are interpretations, and interpretations can be examined. What does the number actually mean? Tonight, right now. It means that the account holds what it holds. It does not mean that you are failing in any absolute sense. It does not mean that you are less worthy of rest, less deserving of peace, less capable of navigating what comes next. It means that a quantity is a particular size, and that the size is not the one you want it to be. That is a real and valid concern. And it is distinct from the catastrophic interpretation that the mind at midnight is so drawn to construct. Epictetus would sit beside you in this bed and ask one question, quietly, without judgment. Which part of this is actually yours? The money, the account, the external fact. That is in the category of things not in your power, subject to forces larger than your control, a matter for the daylight hours of planning and action and effort. The response to the money, the meaning you give it, the story you tell about it, the quality of this night. That is in your power, completely and only yours, unreachable by any circumstance. You are the kind of person who cares about their life, about the people who depend on them, about doing well and living rightly and taking responsibility. The number does not change this. It never did. It never could. Let the breath come again, slow and full. You are still you, entirely you, in possession of everything that is actually yours. Lao Tzu wrote almost nothing about money. He was not interested in the transaction. He was interested in the water. Water, in the Tao Te Ching, is the central image. The thing that demonstrates, through its nature, the deepest truth about how to move through the world. Water does not force. Water does not grasp. Water finds the lowest places, the places that other things avoid, and pools there and is nourished and nourishes in turn. Water wears down stone, not through violence, but through persistence, through softness, through the simple accumulated fact of being present and continuing. In the 33rd chapter of his great work, Lao Tzu wrote something that has been translated in many ways, but whose core is always the same. Knowing others is wisdom. Knowing yourself is enlightenment. Mastering others requires force. Mastering yourself requires strength. He who knows he has enough is wealthy. He who knows he has enough is wealthy. Not he who has a certain amount. Not he who has reached a particular threshold or achieved a particular benchmark. He who knows he has enough. The knowing is the wealth. The relationship with enough is the wealth. And this is not a statement about material conditions. It is a statement about a quality of attention, a way of looking at what is present rather than what is absent. Think about this now, lying in the dark. You have a bed. You have warmth. You are breathing. Your heart is beating steadily, without effort on your part. The extraordinary and undervalued fact of an ongoing metabolism, of a body that continues to function, of 1 billion cellular processes happening right now without your supervision, without your management, without any expenditure of your precious, anxious attention. You have a mind capable of engaging with ideas that were written 2,000 years ago in languages you do not even speak, carried across time and translation to reach you in the middle of a night that you cannot yet see the morning of. You have this moment, this specific, unrepeatable, particular moment. The temperature of the air, the weight of the blanket, the sound of whatever quiet surrounds you. Lao Tzu is not asking you to deny that you want more, or that the wanting is complicated, or that the practical dimensions of having enough are genuinely important. He is asking you to pause, just here, just now, and look at what is actually present, not what is absent, not what is owed, not what is threatened. What is present? He wrote in the 3rd chapter, act without expectation. In the 16, know contentment, and you will not be disgraced. Contentment, not complacency, not settling, not the suspension of ambition, but the capacity to be present with what is, without the constant narrative of what is not enough. This capacity is not something you acquire by reaching a number. It is something you practice. It is something you do right now, in this bed, on this night, by choosing, even briefly, even imperfectly, to let the mind rest on what is here rather than what is missing. The ancient Taoist sages spoke of something they called pu, the uncarved block, the state of original wholeness before it is shaped by wanting, before it is hollowed by craving and filling and craving again. Not primitive, not naive, but prior. The recognition that beneath the acquisitions and the losses and the careful maintenance of a financial life, there is something that was never in need of augmenting, something that the numbers have never touched. You felt it as a child, probably. The hours before the anxiety arrived. The specific and complete satisfaction of an afternoon that was simply what it was. Not earned, not managed, just lived. That child is still there, under everything. Under the worry and the planning and the responsible adult weight of a life in the world. Still there, still whole, still untouched by the arithmetic. Lao Tzu would say, return to that. Not permanently, not naively, just here, just for these hours, in the dark where the numbers have no more power than shadows. Return to the uncarved block. Return to the breath. The richest man in the world lay awake too. At its height, the Roman Empire controlled perhaps 1/3 of the world's GDP. Its emperor, Marcus Aurelius, was the most powerful human being alive in his century. Commander of armies, arbiter of law, holder of resources that no individual before or since has quite equaled in the scope of their dominion. He was also, as far as we can tell, perpetually anxious, not about money. His problem ran in a different direction, in the direction of responsibility and mortality and the question of whether he was being good enough, whether he was making the right decisions, whether the empire would hold, whether the philosophy he had devoted himself to since his teenage years was actually changing him or merely coating him. He wrote to himself, not to publish, not to instruct others, but to instruct himself again and again, to come back to the things that mattered and away from the things that did not. There is a particular kind of irony in the fact that we reach for Marcus Aurelius when we are anxious about money. He was not an anxious man by nature. He was methodical, patient, often described by those who knew him as unusually slow to anger and unusually consistent in mood. But he was not peaceful. The meditations, the private journal he never intended to publish, are the record of a man who had to talk himself down from the ledge of his own mind on a daily basis. He wrote during campaigns. On the Danube frontier, in cold and unfamiliar territory, far from the city he loved, surrounded by disease and war and the constant administrative demands of an empire that seemed always on the edge of something catastrophic. He wrote at night, probably in the lamplight of a military tent, reminding himself of things he already knew and kept forgetting. The same reminders, over and over, about the brevity of time, about the irrelevance of reputation, about the foolishness of anger, about the importance of presence. He had to write them again and again because he kept needing them again and again. He was not a saint. He was a man. And the man, in all of his humanness, wrote to himself, confine yourself to the present. Confine yourself to the present, not because the future is unimportant, not because planning is wrong, but because the future does not exist yet, and the attempt to live live in it, to suffer its threats and anxieties before they arrive, to spend the hours of the actual present in the projected hours of a possible future, is a form of abandoning your life. He wrote, "Today I escaped all anxiety." Or no, I discarded it because it was within me, in my own perceptions, not outside. The emperor, the richest man in the world, anxiety within me, in my own perceptions. He understood what Epictetus, his Stoic predecessor, had also understood, that the disturbance is never in the thing. The treasury could grow or shrink without necessarily disturbing the man who had the right relationship with it. The disturbance came from within, from the perception that things should be different than they were. From the resistance to the present moment, the insistence that reality conform to expectation. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is sometimes quoted in the context of ambition, of using obstacles as fuel. But it is also something quieter. The fear about money, the specific, real, valid concern you carry into this night. It is not only an obstacle to peace, it is also, if you allow it to be, a teacher. What does it teach? It teaches you what you value. It teaches you what your body does under pressure, how your mind responds to uncertainty, what stories you tell yourself in the dark. These are not comfortable lessons, but they are useful ones. The discomfort has something in it that is worth knowing. Marcus would say, don't look away from it. Look at it clearly, without drama. What is actually here? A concern about money. Legitimate, real, something that requires attention in the daylight hours. And tonight, specifically tonight, lying in this bed, there is nothing you can do about it that sleep would not make you more capable of doing tomorrow. He wrote, in one of the most arresting passages of the Meditations, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they do not know what is good and what is evil." This is usually read as advice about people, but it also applies to circumstances. The numbers will be as they are. They will not have your best interests at heart. They do not operate according to justice or gratitude. They are simply what they are, doing what circumstances do, presenting themselves and waiting for your response. And your response, the quality, the clarity, the groundedness of your response, that is entirely within your power, and it begins tonight with rest. Marcus Aurelius slept. Every night, even in the years of plague and war and imperial crisis, he slept and rose and went back to the work. The work was there in the morning. It was always there in the morning, and he was better for having rested. The treasury cannot buy the clarity of a rested mind. That is the one kind of wealth that cannot be acquired with money, only with surrender. Let the breath come. Let the eyes behind their closed lids go soft. Let the mind rest from its calculating. The emperor surrendered to the night too. You are in good company. There is a body beneath the body, you know. You know, the surface body. The one that moves through the world, that is seen by others, that carries the visible weight of a day. The one that gets tense in meetings and tired in traffic and hungry at inconvenient times and wired at night when it should be winding down. But there is another body beneath that one, quieter, older. It breathes whether you ask it to or not. It circulates blood without any instruction from you. It maintains a temperature, regulates a chemistry, heals small damage every single night while you sleep, or tries to, if you give it the time. This second body has been waiting all evening for you to stop running the numbers. It has been patient. It is always patient. It does not argue or demand. It only waits. Let's find it now. The breath first. Not the breath you usually take, quick and partial, the breath of a person who has things to do. The breath of the second body. Let it come in slowly, and let it be fuller than usual. Not forced, not theatrical, not the deep breath of performance. The quiet, available fullness of a person who has time. Let the lungs expand in all directions, front, sides, back. Let the rib cage soften outward. Let the belly, which you softened earlier, stay soft. Let the inhale fill the low part of the lungs first, then the middle, then the top. A wave moving upward, unhurried. And the exhale, let it be longer than the inhale. The exhale is the body's signal to the nervous system, safe. The inhale is gathering, readying. The exhale is releasing, arriving. Let it be long. Let it empty the lungs gently, all the way, without strain. Let the very end of the exhale be the quietest moment, the pause before the next wave. Feel the rhythm of it now, in and out. The same rhythm that has been here since you took your first breath, that will be here until the last. This particular wave, this specific and intimate oscillation, the oldest thing in you. Let the attention move into the body now, following the warmth. There is a warmth in the chest, around the heart. Not metaphorical warmth, actual, physical warmth, the residual heat of circulation, the body keeping itself alive. Let the attention rest there for a moment. Just there. The warmth of the center. Now the hands. Feel the hands exactly as they are, the weight of them, the temperature. Are they warm or cool? Are the fingers slightly curled or extended or somewhere in between? Don't change them. Just notice. The hands that have done so much today, typed and touched and lifted and carried. Let them be still now. Let them be nothing but warm and present. The heavy feeling in the limbs. You may have it, or you may be finding your way toward it. It is the sensation of the body releasing its readiness, dropping its preparation for action. The legs get heavy. The arms get heavy. Not unpleasant. The heaviness of something that has been held for a long time being finally set down. Let the back of the head press gently into the pillow. Feel the skull, heavy and quiet, the noise inside it slowly becoming less urgent. The thoughts are still there. Some of them may be the financial thoughts, the numbers, the anxieties. That is fine. You don't need them to leave. You only need to stop engaging with them actively. Let them be weather. Weather that is passing through the mind, the way clouds pass through a sky that remains unchanged. The clouds are not the sky. Your thoughts about money are not you. They are passing through. The second body is still here, below the clouds, breathing, warm, heavy, waiting to carry you the rest of the way into sleep. Stay with it. The breath, the warmth, the weight. You don't need to do anything else. Seneca wrote a letter to his friend Lucilius when Lucilius was anxious about the future. And in that letter he wrote something that seems almost too simple to be philosophy. He wrote, "Nusquam est qui ubique est." He who is everywhere is nowhere. He was talking about the mind that has scattered itself across past and future, across every worry and every projection, across the full landscape of a possible catastrophe that may or may not come. The mind that is everywhere. In the conversation that happened last Tuesday, in the account balance as it might look in December, in the scenario where everything goes wrong and the scenario where it doesn't, in all the possible versions of a life spread out like cards on a table, that mind is nowhere. Nowhere in this room, nowhere in this body, nowhere in this specific and present and non-catastrophic night. You have something right now that cannot be taken by any market shift, any economic disruption, any number on any statement. You have your mind. You have the capacity to reason, to plan, to respond, to adapt. The quality of a mind trained on Seneca and Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, trained, even in this small and informal sense, on the idea that the interior life is the actual life. That quality is a resource. It does not depreciate. It does not have a bad quarter. It compounds quietly with every night like this one. You have your health. Whatever it is yours. And the body lying in this bed is the instrument through which every possible future is made. You care for it by giving it this, the rest it is asking for right now. You have relationships. You have the specific, irreplaceable people in your life, however many or few, however complicated, who exist in a category entirely separate from the financial ledger. Seneca wrote, "Dum defertur vita transcurret." While we delay, life passes. And the life passing is not measured in accounts. It is measured in the actual days with actual people doing actual things. Those days are happening whether or not the balance is what you want it to be. You have your history of having navigated every difficult period you have passed through before tonight. Every moment where the numbers were wrong, or the future was uncertain, or the path was not clear. You navigated. Not perfectly. Perhaps not in the way you would choose if you had it to do again. But you navigated. You are here, in this bed, in this night, which means every previous night of anxiety eventually gave way to morning. Every previous calculation that refused to resolve itself in the dark eventually found some kind of resolution in the light. This is not a guarantee about the future. Seneca would be the first to say so. Things can go badly. Real hardship is real. The Stoics did not teach that everything resolves comfortably. They taught that you can meet whatever comes with the full force of your character, and that this is the only preparation that matters. And your character has brought you this far. Your judgment, your care, your refusal to stop trying. You have your judgment. The hard-won and still developing capacity to make decisions, to learn from mistakes, to course correct, to try again. No external event has ever stripped a person of their judgment. Losses can happen. Genuine, serious, painful financial losses can happen. And people come back from them. Not because the money returned, but because the mind that navigates money, careful, responsive, capable of learning, was always the real asset. You have time, whatever remains of it, and none of us knows that number. You have the time you have. And time, as Seneca knew better than almost anyone, is the thing that cannot be bought back once it is spent. Each night that sleep reclaims before dawn, each quiet hour, each morning that comes with a body rested enough to think clearly. These are hours. They are the actual material of a life. They are worth something. They are worth, if you were honest, more than the number you have been turning over in the dark for the past hour. Epictetus, who owned nothing, would sit beside you and smile. Not mockingly, but with the specific warmth of someone who knows something, and say, "You are rich. You are rich right now. You have everything in your power, and it is enough to build a life with, and it has always been enough. The things not in your power, the numbers, the market, the future economy, the decisions of others that affect your circumstances. These things will do what they do. You will meet them in the daylight with everything you have. And what you have is considerable. But first, you have to sleep, not as an act of giving up, as an act of preservation. The mind that rests tonight is the mind that navigates wisely tomorrow. This is not luxury. This is strategy of the highest order. Let everything outside the body be outside the body. Let everything outside this room be outside this room. Let the breath continue its slow and patient work. You are already enough. There is a concept in the Stoic tradition that does not translate perfectly into any modern language. The Latin is satis, enough, but not enough as in barely sufficient, not enough as in we made it through, enough as in complete, enough as in whole, enough as in the thing that needs nothing added to it to be what it is. Marcus Aurelius used it in a way that has always struck philosophers as strange, coming from an emperor. He wrote about how he tried to want only what was sufficient, not the maximum, the sufficient. And the sufficient night, in this context, is simply the night that is this night. The night that has this darkness, this quiet, this particular temperature. The night that holds you in this bed at this hour, with these thoughts settling, finally, like sediment in water that has been stirred too long. The sediment is settling now. The thoughts about money have been circling all evening, and they are beginning to slow. Not because they are resolved. They are not resolved, and you are not pretending they are. They are beginning to slow because the body is reaching its limit of useful engagement with them, because there is nothing more to be extracted from them tonight, because the mind has done everything it can do in the dark, and it is time, past time, to let the darkness be darkness. This night is sufficient, not because everything is fine, not because the worry was unfounded, not because tomorrow the numbers will have changed. This night is sufficient because it is what it is, and what it is rest. And rest is not a reward for having resolved things. Rest is what allows things to be approached with the clarity they require. Rest is not the absence of problem. Rest is the preparation for meeting the problem with everything you have. Lao Tzu wrote, in the 16th chapter, one of the most beautiful passages in any philosophical text. Returning to the root is called stillness. Stillness is called returning to one's destiny. The root, the ground beneath everything, beneath the worry, beneath the calculation, beneath the elaborate and understandable and human construction of a financial life with all its demands. The root is always there. The root is what you return to in sleep, and in the kind of quiet that precedes sleep, and in the deliberate practice of letting the mind rest. Returning to the root is not giving up. It is not abandoning the concern. It is acknowledging that the concern has a proper home in the daylight hours of thought and action, and that this home, the dark, the quiet, the breath, belongs to something else, to the part of you that precedes every concern and will remain when each specific concern has been met and replaced by the next. You are more than the sum of your financial anxieties. You have always been more. This is not a motivational statement. It is a factual one. The anxiety is real, and it is not all of you. It is a weather pattern moving through a sky that is far larger and older and quieter than any weather. The sky is always still behind the clouds. Let the breath be the sky. Let the thoughts be what they are. Passing, present, not requiring your response at 2 in the morning. Let the body, which has been in a subtle state of readiness all evening, get the signal it needs. The slow exhale, the softened belly, the hands open on the blanket, the jaw let down. This night is sufficient. You are sufficient. Right here, right now, as you are, with everything uncertain and everything still. Sufficient. The numbers are still there. This is the truth that no philosophy can change, and none of them tries to. The numbers are still there, and in the morning they will be exactly as you left them, and they will require attention, and you will give them attention from a mind that has rested, and a body that has recovered, and a spirit that has been reminded. Gently, from across 2,000 years of careful thought, that the numbers are not the whole story. They never were. Seneca knew a man who spent his entire life accumulating wealth and died having never had a comfortable night. He wrote about him without judgment, only with sadness. The sadness of someone watching a fellow human being mistake the map for the territory, mistake the accounting for the life. The accounting is for the morning. The life is for now. And right now, the life is asking for something very simple. It is asking for the specific mercy of unconsciousness, not as death, not as escape, but as the extraordinary biological gift that evolution has given every mammal, the capacity to stop, to repair, to consolidate, to let the brain do its deep and necessary work without the interference of waking thought. The brain is going to work tonight. It will process the day. It will organize memory. It will, in the way that only sleep allows, loosen some of the knots that waking has tied. It will do this without your supervision. You do not need to manage it. You only need to let it begin. And it begins when the thinking slows. So let it slow. The breath, long and low. The exhale softening, extending. Let there be a pause at the end of the exhale, a small and genuine pause where the body simply rests in emptiness before the next breath arrives. The pause is important. The pause is where the transition happens. Feel the weight of the body across the whole bed. Not one part, the whole. The length of you from feet to head. The width of you from side to side. The full and held weight of an entire human being lying down, letting gravity have its way. Gravity is not a problem tonight. Gravity is the solution. Let it pull everything down and in. The muscles of the face, the muscles of the neck, the chest. Let everything be pulled gently toward the center of the earth. Let the bed catch you completely. Let the house beneath the bed and the foundation beneath the house and the ground beneath the foundation receive your full weight. You are held. You have always been held. The earth has been holding you your entire life without asking for anything in return. It requires nothing of your financial situation. It holds you regardless, the quiet ledger, the one where the breath is entered and the heartbeat and the warmth and the specific gravity of this moment. The one where rest is credit and sleep is compound interest, paid forward into every tomorrow that comes from this night. Enter yourself into that ledger now. One slow breath in, one slow breath out. There is an old Taoist practice of sitting with the night as though it were a teacher rather than an obstacle. Not fighting the wakefulness, not resenting the dark. Sitting with it the way you might sit with a river, not trying to stop it, not trying to redirect it, just being at its edge and letting it move. The river does not need you to manage it. The night does not need you to resolve it. Both of them are doing exactly what they do, with or without your cooperation. And when you stop fighting, when the resistance drops, something unexpected happens. You begin to feel the current rather than struggle against it. The current is sleep. It has been moving toward you all along. You have been the obstacle. Stop being the obstacle. Let the current come. The balance in this ledger is always enough. There is a moment just before sleep where the mind makes one last survey. You may feel it now. The slight, habitual attempt to gather the thoughts one more time, to run the account one more time, to confirm that everything has been checked. The mind is thorough. It is loyal to you in its exhausting way. It wants to make sure nothing has been missed. Nothing has been missed. You have been here for all of it. You have thought the thoughts. You have turned the numbers. You have done everything that thinking could do tonight, and the rest is genuinely for tomorrow. There is a phrase from Epictetus that is usually translated as seek, not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life. Wish the things which happen to be as they are, not forever, not in resignation, not as a surrender of all desire for better circumstances, but here, now, in this specific night, in this specific body, with these specific numbers that are what they are, wish them to be as they are, just for this night, just for the duration of sleep. Tomorrow you can wish them to be different. Tomorrow you can work toward their being different. Tonight, the most powerful thing, the most genuinely productive thing you can do is to let them be what they are without the additional suffering of resistance and sleep. Marcus Aurelius, near the end of his life, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The strength is not in controlling the number. The strength is in the quality of your response to the number. And the quality of your response begins here, in the willingness to rest, to restore, to come back to the work of your life with everything you have rather than arriving there depleted by a night of sleepless arithmetic. Enough is already here. The breath is enough. The warmth is enough. This moment, ordinary and dark and entirely unspectacular, a Tuesday night or a Thursday night or whatever night this is, in whatever month, in whatever season, This moment is enough to sleep in. You don't need it to be more. You don't need the account to be larger before you allow yourself to rest. You don't need to have solved anything. You don't need to have earned the rest by resolving the worry. The rest is yours already. It always was. It is not contingent on the numbers. It is not contingent on anything. Let the face go completely still. The forehead, the eyes, the mouth, the jaw. Everything is still now. Let the breath do the only work left. In, out, in, out. You are almost there. The place where the numbers don't go. The place that has always been here underneath everything. Waiting, patient as water, quiet as the dark between the stars. The place Lao Tzu pointed toward when he spoke of the Tao, the Marcus Aurelius pointed toward when he wrote about the rational soul. The place Epictetus carried inside him through every circumstance his life presented. The place where enough is already here, where it was always already here. You are almost there. There is nothing left to do. The body is heavy and warm. The breath is slow and deep. The room is dark and still. The thoughts, if they are still there, are thin now. The last wisps of something that has been burning all evening, down to ember, down to ash, down almost to nothing. The philosophers have spoken, and they have not solved the problem. They never promised to solve it. They only promised to accompany you. Through the hours when the mind insists on its terrible arithmetic, through the weight of uncertainty, through the specific and very human suffering of lying awake in the dark with a concern about enough. And they have accompanied you. Seneca, who understood that time is the only true wealth, who spent his lamplight hours writing to a friend he loved about the interior life that no circumstance could touch. Epictetus, who was born with nothing and built everything from the single distinction between what is ours and what is not. Marcus Aurelius, who had everything the world could offer and knew that everything the world could offer was not the thing. Lao Tzu, who looked at water and said, "Be like this. Yield. Flow. Find the low places. Let what passes, pass." They are not with you because they had answers. They are with you because they had the same questions. They lay awake too, in their different centuries in their different beds, and they looked at the darkness and they found, slowly, across years of practice, something that held, something that holds. Let it hold you now. The descent into sleep is not a loss of consciousness, the Stoics would say, and you can hear it faintly if you are listening. It is a return to the ground, the rational soul returning to the hole from which it comes, briefly, to be restored and sent back into the world again. The Taoists would say, Gai Gen, returning to the root that was always there, that has never been threatened, that the numbers on the statement cannot reach. The body is descending now. You can feel it if you let yourself. The heaviness increasing, the warmth deepening, the breath becoming something automatic and ancient, something that needs no assistance from you. Just the breathing body in the dark, just the slow and patient pulse. Let the thoughts drift. You don't need to follow them. They will be there in the morning. They are loyal. They will not leave without you. For now, let them drift like boats from a dock, visible for a moment, then farther, then very small, then beyond seeing. The water between you and them is growing. That is correct. That is the right distance. The warmth is spreading now through the chest and the belly and the legs. The heaviness is full and comfortable. The eyes, behind their closed lids, are soft, not seeking, not searching, just resting in the dark they're given. There is a kind of courage in this. The world will tell you that the important hours are the active ones, the productive ones, the hours when you are solving and building and moving things forward. And those hours matter. They are yours and they are real. But so is this. This is also courage to trust that the night knows what it is doing, to trust that the body knows its work, to trust that the self you carry into tomorrow will be better for having been here, in this dark, surrendered to the breath and the weight and the slow undoing of a day. Seneca wrote, in one of his last letters, "Recede into ipse quantum potes." Retreat into yourself as much as you can. Meet with people who will make you a better person. Welcome those who are capable of improving you. There is no room for anything base. Then retreat into the self, the honest, necessary, restorative retreat. You are in it now. Nothing base can follow you here. Not the account, not the projection, not the worst-case scenario, not the comparison with someone else's apparent financial ease. None of it fits through the door that sleep closes behind you. Only you. Only the breath. Only the body in the dark, descending. The descent is slow and it is kind. It does not ask you to have solved anything. It does not ask you to arrive prepared or successful or adequately funded. It only asks you to be what you are, a living body in need of rest, a mind that has done its best, a person who has earned this night the only way any person earns any night, by having lived through the day. You lived through the day. That is enough. It was always enough. Let the breath carry you now. Let the warmth receive you. Let the dark close, gently, around the last edges of waking. The account can wait. The morning will come. And when it comes, you will rise from this. From the long descent, from the root, from the quiet ledger. Renewed in the only currency that cannot be taken. The only wealth the philosophers agreed on, the rested self, present, clear-eyed, ready to meet whatever the day holds with everything you actually are. Sleep now. You are enough.